Yo, what is going on, guys? It's Looper here again, and today we're going to be talking about the best deck for each faction right now in this meta. So if you're unfamiliar with how I do these kind of things, like I've done it before in my best gold cards video, I use a mixture of my own experiences and opinions with those cards or against those cards, as well as some data, which for this I found on GWENT up on the meta section. So I recommend, if you find any of this interesting, you go head over there and give it a quick look. So starting off, I'm going to start with the most, in my opinion, the most predominant deck at the moment, and this is the Swarm Elves. So there are two leaders that are knocking around running this. There is Francesca Finderbear and Bruva Hoog. So I've kind of put these two together because they both have pretty high win rates. They're both pretty successful decks on the whole. But obviously they're pretty much running the same deck. Only difference is they have a different leader to get silvers out and whatnot. So yeah, straight away we're getting into this. So Francesca Finderbear. So her variant of the Elf Swarm deck, which I believe runs Nova. I know my version runs Nova. I'll give you guys a quick look at this, my version of each of these decks. So let me just go to deck builder real quick. So it's very, very strong against Adder and Reveal. So Adder is obviously just going to be the cursed Northern Realms, and using those Kedweni Revenants, and then Morphin Forest is obviously going to be Reveal. And against these two decks, it's got a win rate of roughly 60%. So, you know, it's very, very strong. But on the whole, these two, they really just do really well, and that is why they're doing, honestly, because there's not a really a perfect counter for these two decks for this Swarm deck. There's literally no real counter, honestly. And for that reason, it's pretty much been able to destroy everyone. Honestly, it's just for me, it's been mirror after mirror after mirror, and it's just whoever can get the best cards. The cards they need, and the sequencing, and if you're just a better player generally. So my variant, pretty standard gold: Saskia, Shiru, Ithlin, Nova. I think the only real interesting card is the inclusion of Elias. I don't really see him knocking around too much, but genuinely this card is very powerful, especially if you're mulliganing a lot. And although you can argue, well, Nova would not be able to mulligan as much because you don't have as many Vrihedd officers, you still, think about this, you just pull him out with Francesca, who's already 15 points, and a 15-point silver is pretty good. But honestly, I've had him be my second Nova. I've had him at 22 points, I think, or 21 points. So honestly, he's a great inclusion. Then apart from that, the silvers are pretty standard. So let's give you a quick look. Oh yeah, Ellerin is just a must include. I would say she's definitely very high in the crafting order for this. I didn't actually have her prior to making this deck, but as soon as I put her in, I realised how great she was. Because not only is she an extra point for the Vrihedd Vanguards, which are here, to proc on, but as well as that, she literally is having that 6 points. You know, with Roach, you know, with Ceres, how important that extra few points for the play can be, as it's just going to out-tempo your opponent and force them out of the round or keep yourself into the round. I would say the Farseers are pretty bad in this deck because they don't seem to buff when the Vrihedd Greens are buffing my units in my hand, which I find a bit odd. I'm pretty sure that's not meant to happen, but yeah. So yeah, that's about it. I'll give you guys a quick look down to the bottom. Obviously the Thunders are just there for Ithlin. So yeah, the reason why I think this deck is so good is because, well, the decks it's got the lowest win rate against is Dagon, which honestly I've not seen knocking around too much. I've not seen too much Dagon, so therefore this deck's not being punished too badly. And honestly, the other one it's most susceptible to is the Arrakis Queen, and I'm not seeing much consume either. Maybe because my MMR is not currently too high. I'm rank 18, but I'm not seeing either of the Dagon or Arrakis to counter this, so it's just been able to stomp on everything, and you're going to find yourself a lot of mirrors. And honestly, I don't like net decking, and this isn't even a net deck. I did not look on the internet to find this, but it is pretty similar. I'll have to say. But honestly, you're just going to be finding mirror after mirror, so I kind of thought if you can't beat him, join him. So here I am playing this deck, and I'm actually going to give Consumer a try, seeing as it's so good against it. So this deck is possibly the #1 deck this entire meta. And I would definitely recommend, if you're trying to counter it, you should run Arrakis Queen or Dagon. Or if you're struggling to win any games, run this deck, because chances are you're going to be doing very well. So the next deck we're going to be going on to today is going to be Harold the Cripple. Let me just find my Axeman deck for you guys. Now, Harold the Cripple came about really because right at the start of this meta, right at the very start, the Swarm Northern Realms was it was like the most prominent deck. Everyone was running Swarm Northern Realms with the Foltest, those Blue Stripe Scouts, etc., etc. Everyone was running this deck. Like, it was absolutely everywhere, almost the way that the Elven Swarm deck is now. So, you know, people started to catch on that actually everyone was running this Northern Realms deck and they started running this Harold deck, and I think this really shows in the way that no one sees this Northern Realms deck anymore because they're all so scared of Axeman. So against Foltest, the Axeman deck has a win rate of 73.4%, which is literally why you will probably not see Northern Realms Swarm anymore, because Harold came in, people caught on to the fact that everyone was running the same Northern Realms deck, and they have just been playing Axeman to get rid of it, and it has worked, because I'm not seeing it anymore. As I said, I'm just seeing a stupid elf deck. So obviously, if you want to counter Northern Realms, run this Harold deck. It's great. Also against Dagon and Bran, it's got a win rate of around 61%. So honestly, Harold, you know, he's pretty universally good right now. Like, who would believe that Harold the Cripple is pretty good. So the deck itself, my version at least, it runs Ulfadin. And this may be questionable, because I know a lot of people do not run this card. I don't know what else they run, honestly. Maybe like a Raw Decree or something. But honestly, I think he's a great inclusion. Like, he can easily be 20 plus points. Now, Orkvis is another weird one. And I actually saw this on a Swim deck. Swim, who don't know, is another Gwent YouTuber. And this card is priceless in this deck. Literally, the card advantage it can get you is so key. I don't know why my premiums aren't working, by the way, but yeah, it's so key. And obviously, being able to damage all the enemies when you have things such as Darren on the board, it pretty much gives you an instant win to a round. So, pretty simple, you know. I wouldn't say anything's too obscure with this one. I think White Frost is an odd one because obviously I already had these Drought, or the Karathi Heatwave as it's called now. So, but I think it's just good just to have another weather. And also it means that they will often, like, you play this, then one row's free. So they'll often stack that row for Lacerates, or so that Burner Bran can come in with the Skellige Storm and just destroy that row. So that's that. It's important to note that this is definitely weak against Radovid, because obviously those locks on the Darren or those locks on the Axeman are going to be pretty punishing. And then also, funnily enough, Usurper is very strong against this. Now, there were many occasions when I was looking online where, like, you know, stuff like Usurper or Adder, they were like really strong against certain decks, but I don't know whether really to talk about that too much, because no one really runs those decks. Like, they are very unused leaders, as well as like Hillock as well. That's another important one. Like, these leaders, I don't want to make too much of a big fuss about him, because although they may have high win rates against some decks, no one really runs them, so they're really not. And I'm talking about the best decks of this meta. So if I'm not seeing them, I don't care what online says. If I'm not seeing them and I'm not feeling how powerful they are, I'm not going to include them in this list. So moving on, we now have Reveal Nilfgaard. So this is, for me, this is the most seen Nilfgaard deck. Let me see if I can find it. There we go. Yeah, this is the most. This is like the most predominant Nilfgaard deck. I know Spies is still around. I think John Calvy's still got a lot of playtime. I think he's in 12% of all decks. I'm not exactly sure, which is an incredible amount. I mean, I think Francesca is 15% of all decks, so there you go, that's another crazy figure. But yeah, Jan Calvi is still doing pretty well, but for me, Reveal's just been all over it for Nilfgaard. And my version of Reveal is pretty simple, you know. You've got Leo Bonhart, you've got Vatier, Aguara. I was just struggling. I've made a deck, I've made a video on the best gold cards, and I put this gold card in there for neutral, so I suggest you go watch that and find out why this card is so good. And then you'll understand why it's just in my deck. So yeah, fairly standard list. Actually, I'd not say anything here is so out of the ordinary. I say Swears, I really put it in because Consume was really predominant when I made this deck, so I wanted to get rid of it. So this deck is so strong against Arrakis, 65% win rate. Strong against Emir as well, with a 57.5% win rate. And it's also strong against Bran and Eredin. So this one's, you know, it's got a good span. However, with this deck, you really can bully opponents out of round one. But if you're not careful, you'll find that you'll use all your win conditions, because you have that massive tempo, you know, with stuff like Mangonels, Dale and Foot Soldiers, Imperial Golems, and yeah, and just more of them revealing themselves. So that they always have that swing, and they always play that swing round 1 to bully their opponent out. But if you don't get bullied out, if your opponent like manages to recover from that, if you're playing reveal, you're really screwed. Like, there's not much chance of you getting back into it, because if they can win round 1, they can just force you out, and then what you're gonna have for round 3, a flipping fire scorpion. Exactly, like, it's not good. So for reveals, a bit on and off, because it's a pretty reliable deck, because nothing really gets nerfed with it. You know, it's not too powerful, but it's not too weak, so it's in a really good spot. And yeah, I've got to mention it. I think CD Projekt Red actually did pretty well with balancing this patch, because I think a lot of decks are actually quite viable. Like, these are just the most like seen ones, in my opinion, but it's got to be said, pretty much a lot of decks you can run and still be pretty successful. So it's weak against Henselt, Bruver, and Francesca. So yeah, it's weak against the Elf Swarm deck, but that's to be expected, because flipping everything is weak against the Elf Swarm deck. Alright, moving on. The final deck I'm going to be talking about is, Consume for monsters. So I do not believe I have an updated Consume list at all. I do not believe I do. So this is my most recent Consume list. Apparently it's only got 2 gold cards. I'm not quite sure where the other ones are gone. So pretty much ignore what's on the screen right now, because it's not really too relevant. Because I know a lot of people actually running lists right now without Neckers, which is a bit odd. Or at least just running 3 Neckers and just playing them all last round. So why would you want to run Arrakis? Well, you'd want to run Arrakis, as I've previously mentioned, that the Francesca Swarm deck is so weak against it, and the thing is, everyone is running Francesca Swarm. Arrakis Queen is pretty strong. So yeah, it is very strong against Foltest as well, 63.8% win rate. The Whispering Hillock, 77.8%, and Dagon, 64% win rate. Now, it's interesting because Francesca's not even mentioned here, so that just shows that this deck is really diverse. Like, I don't know what exactly list it is, because I can't actually show you, because I don't actually have it made. Sorry, guys. But it's very strong against lots and lots of decks. It's weak against Ithonate and Morvern, but as I said, I don't really see Ithonate at all. And Morvern, yeah, you are going to run into him sometimes, but honestly, if you say what if you lose that match, because you're going to be able to win so many others. So for that reason, I would actually say the best 2 decks, I'm not sure if I'll be able to single it down to 1, but the best 2 are definitely Arrakis Queen, and yeah, the Francesca or Bruverhoog Elf Swarm. Surinova potentially in there as well. So the reason why these are 2 of the best is because Elf Swarm's just destroying everything right now. It's very universally good at beating most decks. Therefore, a counter is also very viable, because seeing as it's everywhere, if you ever run a good counter to it, then you're going to be able to beat it. And seeing as it's everywhere, you're going to be able to beat it a flipping lot, thus granting you more MMR. So they're pretty much making it a better deck. If you would ask me a week or 2 ago, I probably would have said Foltest Swarm, because it was so good. Like, I ran that for a long time. I had loads of fun with it. I think it's a very fun game, fun deck even. And it's, it's kind of risky with all the mulligans, with all the different bricks you can get. But yeah, that just adds more fun for me. So for that reason, that would have been it a few weeks ago, and then Harold would have been it maybe a week later, because Harold was just destroying it. And now, yeah, Elf Swarm's come along and kind of killed the fun, because I didn't even find it that interesting. I just kind of had to do it because I was losing all the time when I wasn't playing it. So I joined the winning team, so I'm not afraid to admit. And yeah, hopefully Arrakis, hopefully it'll be around a bit more, because as people catch on that everyone is running this elf deck, they'll start to run Arrakis. So yeah, for now, I would say that the best deck, and if you were just coming back to the game for whatever reason, or you're thinking about trying something new, I would definitely try the Francesca elf deck or the Arrakis Queen Consume. And I'm sure you can find a good version of both these decks on GWENT and find like a net deck there. But if not, you can make your own, have some fun with it. So yeah, that's it, guys. Thanks for watching so much, and any support, just a subscribe or a like, please do not forget, because it would mean the world to me. And yeah, thanks guys, see you next time.